Hey, what's up, everyone? Brad Chmielewski here with episode 198 of Shatter The Vain, ticking away to that episode 200. All right, but this is a really fun episode this week. I got Tdawg joining me once again. Many of you in the Vainglory community probably know or remember Tdawg. He had the Alternating Current podcast. He was streaming quite a bit on Twitch. Mostly, I think pretty much always Vainglory. I think he was doing sometimes other games, but Vainglory was the core of it all in the Vainglory podcast. And then he just kind of disappeared. Not a lot said when he left, but now he seems to be coming back in the game, wanting to get more involved, getting set up, I think, to stream again. He talks about a little bit of what he's doing, why he left. Things like that. Just nice to check in with him, see what's up. Great to see him back, especially as the community seems to be in this weird flux of people saying goodbye, new players coming in, a lot of people trying to defend SCMC for what they're doing, SCMC pushing forward with their esports and 5v5. It seems like this weird changing space right now, so it's great to see an old face like Tdawg coming back in, experiencing 5v5, seeing what the game's about right now. Really hope he's enjoying it. Really hope he has some good success with his stream, and if he gets rolling with the podcast again. Be sure to follow him up on Twitter. There's a link in the show notes in the description of this episode. And keep a lookout because he's got a pretty awesome puppy he's been talking about. I think he shared a few pictures as well, so maybe there'll be some puppy streams also. That'd be really fun. But that has nothing to do with Vainglory, and that's what this podcast is all about. Vainglory, mobile games. All right, let's get into episode 198.
Shatter the Vain.
This is the 198th episode of Shatter the Vain. My name is Brad Chmielewski, and this is a podcast all about Vainglory. Every week, I try to break down the news, gameplay, game tips, and hopefully we can all become better players together. And every week, bringing on people from the community, people that love this game, support it, have been playing it for a long time. And this week, I want to welcome back Tdawg. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, thanks for having me back. I mean, last time that I saw you here, Brad, was episode 100 when you got the kind of the whole gang together in the Vainglory podcasters. And now 198. I mean, still being the longest running podcast. And even with my previous podcast, Alternating Current being the second, maybe coming back, still in the middle about that,
Okay,
but
cool.
Still absolutely fantastic to be here, and definitely be coming back in about a couple months.
Yeah, that was you, Main Vein, the Fold, and myself. So,
Yeah,
now we
it
have
was
time for rolling.
yeah, it was definitely a great time, because during that time, I was still very, very young into the community. So someone like you reaching out to me and saying, hey, you're one of the main podcasts within the community, do you want to come on, was definitely one of those major things that influenced me to still not as well come back, but also do what I did within the community.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So it was definitely awesome to be within that kind of a little bit of core net team.
Right. So yeah, you were doing the podcast for a while. You were streaming quite a bit, and then all of a sudden, you seemed like you disappeared. You seemed like you had to take a step back from the game and the community. Anything you want to? What happened there? I guess.
Yeah. So that was one of the major things that to touch on. I'm going to definitely try to leave names out, because
Fair enough,
I'm not
yeah.
here to put names on blast or anything like that.
No, I think everyone's just probably glad
Oh yeah.
you're alive and even like something bad didn't happen to you. Why, like,
No,
when people
nothing.
disappear, like even like Tiny Destiny recently on her tweets, like people are like concerned, right?
Yeah, bless her heart. I definitely know the private details of that, and she's definitely one of the people I look to. And bless her heart that she definitely getting the help she needs,
Cool.
and she's says that she's seeing a therapist and stuff like that. So definitely bless her heart, and I'm glad she's getting the help she needs. Knows that, but yeah, when I had taken off like that, because I know I definitely hurt some people, and I did not mean to hurt people the way I did, by taking off that suddenly, but um, basically to answer some questions why I had left the community was simply put, um, I was simply burnt out,
Hmm.
with not only the game but with content creation, following some certain events that, uh, for the fact of the matter, left me in a very deep pit of depression, to be
Okay.
completely honest. Left on me by one of the members of the Vainglory community.
Hmm.
Like I said, not to name anybody, but at that point in my life, I saw streaming and the podcast and everything that I was doing as nothing more than something that harmed me more than it had helped me.
Okay.
And every time that I got on, it started weighing on me more and more, like a hundred pound of bricks on my shoulders. And for me, just taking a step back and really what I had thought of me quitting actually permanently, kind of backfired on a very positive note, because during this kind of the 6 month period when I was gone, allowed me still grow as a person and as an individual in my life.
Okay.
As well as I still work the same old 9 to 5 job. I still work from home. But as well as I also got my first home,
Nice.
renting a 3 bedroom, 1 bath house a little bit in north part of Iowa, because that's where I live.
Hmm.
And got a you could say, some couples would say, a child, and have got a child luckily, but getting a 6-month-year-old Siberian Husky puppy by the
That's
name
awesome.
of Luna. And if she has as much energy, I I wish I could just draw a little bit of that energy from that dog, because good Lord, I cannot keep up with her.
Yeah, I think I saw like a tweet about doing uh, dog streams or walking streams or something like that.
Yeah, and honestly, just kind of you, me, and just the Shatter The Vain community. One of those things is I've always kind of looked at like real life streams, is because you see all these videos and stuff like that of just crazy stuff happening, weird stuff happening, and some could say a stage or something, but it's still there that there was some weird stuff that can happen in during real life streams. So I'm like,
Hmm.
man, I don't want some weirdo stalker coming up and during
Right.
my real life streams while I'm mocking Luna, and then suddenly I'm just gone again. But that's one of the things that I've been thinking about doing is before, while I'm still building up, because there's still a couple things that I need to get before I can actually bring up gaming streaming again,
Okay.
especially coming back for Vainglory, because that is going to be one of the games that I am going to be streaming. But definitely build up towards the gaming streaming that I'll be coming back to, as
Hmm.
doing some real life stream. It's just a matter of when do I want to start that, and probably going to be starting that within the next month here. It'll,
Awesome.
as well as get me in the routine of continuously taking out Luna and getting her exercise, because if she does not get 6 hours a day of exercise, I think this is the motto of any husky. If you
Hmm.
don't exercise them at least 6 hours, they'll
Oh.
start eating everything within
Oh,
a five
yikes.
hour
Okay.
radius.
I don't know. I have couple cats, so they are very they're much easier to deal with than having to worry about a dog eating all your furniture.
Oh yeah, right. Very true. And I was very much of a cat person, but true to my name, I absolutely fell in love with this dog when my fiance brought it home, and wasn't too sure how it would work out. But yeah, she brought it home and absolutely loved the dog to death. But to touch on the decision, kind of going back of why I came back, just if not only everybody in the community, because one, I felt horrible for kind of leaving everybody as I did, but mostly it was the encouragement of my fiance Jamie, or someone, some in the community know her as Poison Night. It's kind of one of those things where I kind of had lost my purpose.
Okay.
What I felt like I had lost my purpose in life, and just having that purpose of seeing the community grow, personally, my own community grow, and having a goal every week for the podcast. It was one of those things where I just personally lost that purpose in life besides the 9 to 5 job, which, if any working adult knows, that can get very mundane
Right.
very quickly. So it was one of those things where I wanted to have something come back to something that I could still grow at, and that I frankly miss the community members. I miss the small, definitely miss the ties that I had come to know and come to grow with.
Yeah.
As simply put as that.
Yeah, it's interesting that you talk about it. One is like a burden sometimes, like the making content, especially a podcast or any sort of
Oh,
videos
very much so.
where you
Yeah.
have to put out something every week. There is really no time to think about how that one went because you always have to worry about how the next one went. Same thing with streaming. Once that stream is done, you might send out a tweet that you thank everyone, and then you're like, well, I already have to worry about tomorrow's stream, so let me get some
No.
sleep and we'll do it again. So there's, yeah, it does become very, I guess, depressing to some degree, but then a lot of people use it as like a way to connect with people that maybe care about them or are outside of their group or their community where maybe they aren't getting the support. So it's a super interesting thing that happens both ways with like content creation and especially streaming.
Yeah, very much so. And to touch on that, I even still like the editing process because it was one of those things is I know we're not on video right now, and that was, I had to say, back for alternating current, that was about 60% of it.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to be bringing back alternating current, it's going to be audio only because the editing on audio is not as bad
No.
as video by far. And as soon as you upload it to, say, for myself, it was SoundCloud, it ended up shipping out to other websites that a
Yeah.
couple of the other community members listened to. So in terms of just uploading to YouTube, it was a lot more work than it was truly needed.
Right. And it's not even, yeah, for me, it's often not the editing, it's the compressing and then the extra
Oh yeah.
uploading. That's like,
Oh, yeah.
all right, well, I got to wait an hour for this to compress or whatever it is. And then, okay,
Render
now I got
out,
to, yeah.
upload. Yeah, good lord.
It's like, I already talked to this person. I already had the enjoyment of it. All right. I guess I'm doing it for everyone else now.
Very much so. And it's one of those things where at the beginning, when you started when I personally started my own podcast, I did it as the excitement of meeting all these people that I looked up to. I think episode 3 or 4 of the Alternating Current, I had Action Jackson on, which at that time just really blew me away that this high-ranking person within the community even wanted to have anything to deal with me and talk with me. And to come to find out, it's just as simple as asking if a person wants to come onto the podcast
For
and
sure, right?
provide that outlet to speak. And I'm sure it's the same result for you as well.
Yeah, most of the time, there's been a few people who maybe don't want to come on, who are shy or don't want to get in front of the camera or the audio. That happens, but most of the time, people are more than welcoming and are are glad to do it if they can manage the time. Like it's often a
Oh, yeah.
time thing for anyone, but yeah, most of the
Very
time
much so.
people are more than happy to talk to you and just spend 30, 60 minutes, whatever it is.
Yeah, definitely very much so. And even when you think some people are going to be completely shy, it ends up flipping it on its, doing a complete 180 and end up chatting for over an hour for
Hmm.
some podcasts. It's just absolutely amazing to see this. And very well, and I didn't realize it before, but it is a networking tool to some degree. And just building these relationships is long lasting. It really is.
Yeah. So that's awesome to hear that you're one possibly coming back with the podcast again and then streaming as well. So it seems like Vainglory is going to be a part of it, maybe some dog streams, and you're going to do other games as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, and one of the things that I wanted to definitely touch on is when I come back, one of the main goals, and I had tweeted this out, is every month I am going to be choosing at least four dog shelters within North America
Hmm.
that most, if not all, the profit that the channel earns will be going to those dog shelters, such as the term of my stream, the Dog House.
Right.
And it'd be just one of those things where one of the four lets the subs actually vote on which one it goes to,
Hmm.
but still keep that close-knit community and keep growing and keep working with the game that made me who I am today, which is Vainglory.
Yeah, that's awesome that you're going to donate that. I know like a lot of people or people often get caught up in like, I'm going to make money. I'm going to be a ninja and make, all this money every month. And it's like,
I think it's what NBC did an interview on him, $500,000 a month.
yeah,
Still insane,
that
but it
no,
took him 10 years to get where he is.
that's insane. And that's one person and he's the most popular person. Guess what? Most people on Twitch they are working other jobs. They are not
Oh
making
yeah.
enough money to support themselves or they're in school and it's a side thing. There is not a lot of money in making YouTube videos and streaming. So
No, there is not. And even still being lucky to do it even full time, if you're in like a living situation, if you're living with like parents or if you're living with friends, which by all means, those living
yeah.
situations, do what you have to do to get yourself on your feet. But sometimes with those situations, just allows you to do what you can. And um, I know with like Rumbly, he's doing it live full time. Xenotech, he's doing it full time as well. And for them to be able to do it full time on content creation, which is just absolutely fantastic. Good on
Mhm.
them. As well as another person that I guarantee will be doing it full time here probably pretty soon. He hasn't confirmed it, but I guarantee he'll probably do it if he brings in enough money. Will probably be the one of the brand new streamers that came on, but he's part of GameStar's Iraqi Zorro.
Oh,
He
yep.
just started streaming on Twitch,
Hmm.
and he's doing well for himself. Like I have to say, over close to 200 viewers, and it's built, and especially for a Vainglory stream,
Yeah, that's
that's on par with Flash.
yeah, no, that's great. But yeah, but you donating the money, then you don't get caught up in the like, oh, I only made $40 this month. That's like
Yeah,
that wasn't worth my time. I could have, not had a coffee this week and made more money, basically, But then you're
yeah.
donating. It's like whatever it is, it's more than I would have gave if I wasn't doing that, right?
Oh yeah, by far. It's not about the money.
Yeah.
It's about the time that you put into it and growing it. Um, and it's a matters of where the future takes you, to be
Hmm.
completely honest. But yeah, it's not about the money. It's about the growth of the community that you want to see. Are you doing better than last month? Okay, what can you see to possibly improve it, or um, to even continue having fun and growing it at your own pace?
Hmm. Um, So then when you did step away, did you step completely away from Vainglory? Like, did you play it at all? Were you like on some alt account, you know, still checking it out and honing your skills? Or did you
No,
completely put it down?
very well. I have to say it was about 80 to 20% there.
Okay.
80% of just completely just stepping away, and then 20% of me picking it up, checking in with the communities, how everybody was doing. Because like I said, I had thought that my head plan that backfired very positively was that I was going to step away permanently and not come back. Well, it was one of those things. I was seeing the 5v5 release. My fiance, Jamie, had actually received an email saying, come join 5v5 from SEMC, which I thought was really cool. But we had, I was watching the 5v5 release. I had actually watched the video presentation at 2017 Worlds, where Christian was going over 5v5 and everything about it, and just kind of playing a couple games here and there, but mostly my iPad Pro did not get use very much at, if that all. During that time, I think fiance was using it more for Netflix than I was for gaming.
Oh, wow, funny.
But yeah, I still checked in with the community. I was still checking up with the esports tab and the community tab, and still tried taking it for 2017.
Yeah.
Worlds. Was absolutely blown away. I'm sad to hear that Cloud9 left the VG scene. It was a couple of sad days for that, but yeah, I was checking in every once in a while with it. Yeah.
Nice. So now that you're back, like you said, 5v5 was kind of a glimmer at that point. Have you gotten some games in? How are you liking this new mode, this new map?
So with the new map, honestly, it's a baby. It really is. It feels like the very early days of the 3v3.
Yeah.
Even still, like I came in like a year after it came out on Android. Back before 3v3, I came in at the end of 2015.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say I was in the baby stages of 3v3, but definitely walking around on 5v5. We know Dota, we know League of Legends as having its own meta, where you have two in the bottom lane, you have one in jungle going around the entire map, you have a middle laner and top laner. In Vainglory 5v5, it feels like a free-for-all.
Yeah.
And there's no
and see who can get the most kills.
Honestly, it honestly is like kind of a brawl free-for-all. Like there's no defined meta right now. And even though in game it's showing that there's apparently two jungles, you have your middle lane, top lane, and bottom lane, it doesn't feel like the Vainglory community is taking a chapter or note from, like, say, League of Legends. Hopefully not from its toxicity, but
I don't know.
maybe
That's
from its meta of keeping a bottom laner. You have your support and your ADC carry. You have your jungle, and then your top lane, middle lane to balance out the 5v5. I haven't seen that, to be completely honest. I have seen players that have walked around, understandably, like it's their first game and have very hard times trying to grasp the concept of 5v5.
For me, a lot of the time is you're in lane and you know if anyone's going to come up there and gank you, you will die because anyone can survive under the turrets. They don't do a lot much damage, so you just have to hope that your lane doesn't get ganked or that your jungler is there as well to back you up.
And hope. If not, then you better be laying those wards cameras. The wards, give me a break. You better be laying your wards, getting vision down on the map, because one of the things that I am so glad that SEMC did that honestly League of Legends did not win playing through there in the 5v5, they gave every player wards. So there's no excuse that you're not laying down vision, because I'm sorry, even support's job, we're trying to protect you. We're trying to also do vision. Just you got some free words laid down. Please protect your own lane.
Right. Yeah. League added that recently. I think everyone gets a award at the beginning of the game. So yeah, it definitely helps and shows like the support or the captain isn't the only person that should be
Yeah.
responsible for this. Everyone can do it.
Yeah. With my thoughts on the map though, very well done. Very beautiful.
Mhm.
I There are a little bit of qualms like the position of the ability minions in the jungle. The weapon I think they really should be actually turned around because if you actually are facing on the left hand side of the map, you're actually taking a look, you're on bottom side of the map, and you're going straight towards the northeast side of the map. The one problem is the ability minion on the right hand side from the middle lane is so easily accessible.
Yeah.
It's almost unbelievable. And I've heard some qualms about if there's an advantage over one side or the other, and seen some backup for that. But majority of it, I think that the ability minions just need to be either turned around where the landscape actually is full 180,
Hmm.
or actually needs to be a little bit deeper and maybe a shift of where all of these minions are.
Hmm.
Um,
Is that a
yeah.
bias coming though, knowing League and knowing Dota, like where they
Very,
are?
very much so.
So
It's very biased
that
on
that
that.
I feel the same way, but I also feel like maybe that's my
I
thoughts
mean,
coming
if
from
you
those
want to
games.
give me free ability minions, by all means, give it to me. But
Right.
maybe make me work for it just a little bit. Not so the enemy jungler is not losing his camps by one step out of me walking over the river. Thanks.
Right, yeah. Or the captain just like, I'm gonna roam back and forth and just I'll take this
Oh
on my
my
way.
lord.
And
Yeah, a captain should not be roaming around the entire map. I mean, yeah, no. I That's kind of one of the things that is definitely irked me in this 5v5 meta is it seems like instead of there's no jungler on the map. It feels like three lanes and then you have your captain that is walking around everywhere, which just does not sit well with me at all.
well, there's no job for the jungler in
Yeah.
Vainglory. The buffs often go to the laners, so the jungler gets nothing, and then they're a mobile ganker at that point.
Yep. Yep. It's free for all. Let's go.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Do you have a position or a role that you're liking over the others?
Um, I'm still honestly, I no matter what changes are being made, I'm still a captain main at
Okay.
heart. I'm still roam captain, whatever you prefer to call it. I am still a support role at heart. I love how the characters come into play. I love that last clutch of saving players. I love getting triple man, 4-man stuns with ardent alts. Just being the most important role, maybe not being told I'm the most important, but knowing that if you're going to live, it's going to be because of me. And just absolutely my favorite role is still being captain.
Nice. Yeah. I haven't. I don't know. Yeah, I do like the captain because of that. Like, just I can do whatever I want, and as long as I save somebody, it's usually a win for me. At least because you now have four people to get upset at you for not saving them. So if you could save one, okay, cool. So you just kind of hopefully babysit somebody or babysit two lanes and play that way.
Oh
So
yeah.
I kind of like that role a little bit. It's a little more low stress, and you can kind of look out at the map a little more. You can kind of see the bigger picture. All right, where's everyone at? What's this team doing, and how do we counter it now?
Yeah, and here's one of the things that I have not heard from many players. When you're trying to go from, say, League of Legends to Vainglory, most of the time you're playing on a very smaller screen. So, in terms of map awareness, especially from looking at that little map, because obviously on a mobile device, the map itself is going to be small as to not take up the entire map. but the map awareness is definitely a little bit less on the players for being on mobile. So communication is there. You still have your communication pings, but definitely it's a little bit harder with mobile MOBAs just because of how small everything is.
Yeah.
Having that map awareness is definitely key.
But you got the iPad Pro, so you got plenty of
Just,
map screen there.
just a little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah, I'm playing on the iPad mini, and I often have a hard time clicking on things because there's so much on the screen now.
I mean, they did say Vainglory was made for tablets and
Yeah.
iPads and stuff, so
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's been interesting. But I still feel like everyone's still learning it, even though they're trying to say there's a meta. But I think until the VPL starts, the preseason, I know we had
yeah,
the
until
VGL, but
ranked starts up and all of the player base can actually see what the pros are doing. Hopefully, that's when Vainglory will start actually forming a meta.
yeah.
Until then, it's kind of free for all. Okay, everybody, let's just roam together as a team. There's no need for you to have your own lane. Let's go.
Right, yeah. That's I think the best way just to win the game. If you can communicate with your team like, "Hey, three of us are just going to roam around and gank and take turrets. Let's go. They can't stop us."
Yeah, and
And
one of
we'll
the
do
things
that.
that I will touch on is I remember some early concepts for 5v5 maps with a two-lane map instead of three,
Yeah.
where SMC obviously went with the standard 5v5 map. And kudos on SMC. I remember a couple of times during the Alternating Current podcast where I said it's not a loss to copy or at least take a tip from other MOBAs that have done better than you. I
Mhm.
remember saying that definitely a couple times. So they went with the three-lane map as a via instead of the two-lane. But as the current meta, I think the two-lane map with a lane up top and a lane up bottom, and you had a jungle within the middle, probably would have been a little bit better and unique in scenario, as I could say.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
I agree. They it wasn't a bad thing that they kind of went with that, but it's also I follow people that play League and Vainglory on Twitter, so when images or funny plays are shared, it's very hard to see what is what until you
yeah,
like dive into that image because they look the same. Like they look, and maybe that's a benefit to SCMC from like a branding point of view. It's like, oh, we got you. It looks like it, but it's not.
yeah, and it's just there's a lot of work to be done on Vainglory still for 5v5 at an
Hmm.
extreme amount, especially with more characters coming out. I mean, just balance changes nonstop,
Yeah.
trying to buff up the lower tier ones to try to be top tier, and then top tier try to be buffed lower. It's constant battle for SCMC at this point.
Yeah, I just want to play Tony. Like I'm playing ranked, you don't get to play that guy, and I haven't even
Nope.
seen him or got to play him since the release because he's too strong. So
I played
yeah,
him a couple times in casual,
okay,
and the damage with even picking him up the very first time, going 10, 3, and 7 without really even knowing going the default build, he hits like a truck.
yeah,
His A just I think it's every 6 or 7 seconds, just constant stunning. And just his ult for displacement of the enemy team members just is absolutely fun. Now, the taunt itself, you have to time,
hmm
but he needs to be nerfed. And I don't think anybody can disagree. He does need to be nerfed on the damage side, but in terms of his playstyle, for taunting anyway, being I could correct me on this, but the very first hero with the taunting
yeah, he is. Yeah.
mechanics, there had been rumors when the Alternating Current podcast was going through that some characters might come up with a taunting technique, but this is the very first hero to actually implement that.
Yeah, so that's yeah, it's cool to see new stuff get added to the game like that, and uh, but yeah, there's no time to adapt to him because yeah, he's not played, and so it'll be the next update until we all like figure out how to play him and counter him because
Oh yeah.
it just hasn't been there. Cool. Well, I guess that kind of leads into a little bit of the news, the stuff that's been happening in the scene right now.
Vainglory News.
The big one, I think, because of some of these like bug changes and these OP heroes and just the work that needs to be done in 5v5, it is causing a lot of player fighting and just the growing battle of people leaving the game and then people defending SMC and then also people like yourself coming back into the game. So there's like, there's just this, I guess, ring of people that like people leave. Some people are coming back now because it's 5v5. And then there's always the group that's defending SCMC to the death. And so it's been very interesting watching Reddit and Twitter conversations. Whew. Yeah, any thoughts on that? Have you been reading any of these?
Oh man. Coming back into the community, it just feels like if any, I'm sure everybody has seen it, but the community gif where David Groke just walks into the room, everybody's in just chaos, there's fire. He's just holding pizzas in his hand like, I just went to go get pizzas, man. That is how I am feeling at this current moment as I watch all of this. I'm not gonna say drama. It's a beef between everyone.
Yeah.
It's just go on. And it's definitely the only way I can really say this, because obviously there's really no middle ground. It's either kind of one or the other. At this point, I'm still that hopeful young boy. Like, SEMC will still bring it out and we'll still be the top thing, still the top MOBA on the mobile market.
Yeah.
And here's the thing is, as I'm taking a look at Vainglory, and I take a look at a couple other games, and especially for 2018, if there's any year that mobile games are going to take off, it's going to be this year.
Mm-hmm.
For the very, very sure point that, and it's very sad to have these community members leave. I'm not going to lie, because each member that takes a step back, it's no matter how many people download the game, if those people don't engage within the community, they're still not growing that underlining base. Sure, they're playing, they're a player, that's fine. But these players that do so much within the community, like Automatic, that did this huge post giving advice to SEMC and stuff like that. I mean, it's great to have these regular players, but for SEMC, they have to realize you're losing your players that put more into the community than a normal player will.
Yeah, I've always said, like, I think, there's a group of players that just play this game that maybe play one game a night or one game every couple nights and have no idea that there are streamers, that there's YouTubers, that there's podcasts, and they are fine. They don't need to know because they use the game as entertainment, enjoyment, just to pass the time. Like, maybe they didn't want to watch this episode of whatever TV show their parents were watching or their wife or their husband were watching, and like, I'm just going to play one of these while you watch that.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm not going to lie. Automatic brings up a lot of good points. But when it comes down to it, it's more of feeling, okay, there's a feeling of community versus company. And I touched on that back a couple episodes during the Alternating Current, but it's one of those things where SMC it's not like they're trying to do it on purpose. But as they grow, it's more and more feeling like it's community versus company. Because if you're trying to grow a business, you're going to be less on the community side than you were as a business. Because if you're trying to build the business, obviously you're not going to be all friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And I have met these people in real life. I know where their allegiances do lie, and they do wholeheartedly love this community with every fiber of their being.
Sure.
But also, we have to be realistic where we stand here, because they are trying to build the community and they're trying to get it to where these other games are. But at the same time, they're also, and kind of segue it into the mentality of the Western culture.
Mm-hmm.
One of the tweets that went out by Dowsy he brought up a huge point where he said that this is a Western stigma. Quote unquote, I love when PC players claim that nobody wants or needs a mobile version of a game. It's such a Western world statement, totally ignorant to the fact that many of the Eastern worlds don't have personal computers, but instead have access to smartphones only if the West matters. Which he's not wrong on that statement. Dowsy hit the nail on the head when he had said that, with garnering 47 likes, including mine. Anyway, but going on to that and attaching on to that statement, it is a full 180 turnaround, because over in Asia, it is so huge of a market that you see the rise of Heroes of Valor. I do believe that's the name of the game.
Yeah.
Where tons of players are playing this game, and it's having its finals of, I do believe, $500,000. And so in terms of money, where mobiles come from, they're not short on cash. The microtransactions that are still very in your face kind of about it way.
Yeah.
But the microtransactions are still there. So the money aspect of it is not there. But with access to personal computers in the Western world, it's very hard for mobile games to even come up and even have a rise into it.
Yeah.
Because there's still the stigma of mobile gaming, lol. And you definitely see those comments whenever you see like the esports come around for Vainglory and stuff like that. Is no one can believe that there's actually an esports scene for these games.
Right. And
But
the Western people most of the time treat their smartphone and these mobile devices as a time waster. I guess that's the only way to, like, they are things to do in the bathroom, waiting in line, on the bus, when you're commuting. They are not things you often sit down and do or use for long periods of time unless you're watching a movie. That's the only thing that.
Very much so. And still, even in the Western world, if you take a look at esports as a whole, it's still growing. Now, of course, with it becoming more mainstream, definitely esports becoming mainstream at this point, and Twitch itself coming into the spotlight on NBC, it's just the whole Western world is more on football and baseball and all these regular sports, and it's still esports is coming into it. And then when you add mobile gaming on top of that, it's almost a little bit too hard for even to someone that has not taken a look from outside to in. It's kind of hard to imagine, oh, these phones, but they're phones. They're not gaming consoles. And we have to sit and say, no, it can be used for gaming. It's actually, you can play games on there. And we're constantly fighting that stigma of mobile gaming, lol.
Right. And so I think the idea, like the personal computer thing, is important because younger kids, they get computers for schoolwork and to do things like that. We're not doing that on our phones. And so they often end up getting like their parents' older phone or a second generation one, because these devices are expensive. Like an iPhone's $1,000 when you also have a laptop or a
Retail,
desktop computer at your house. Like, you're not going to be most 12, 15-year-old kids aren't going to have like a MacBook and $1,000 iPhone. Yeah,
Yeah.
there are a lot of kids that do, and that's great for them, but the majority aren't. So it's hard to have like a mobile game as powerful as Vainglory or even Fortnite or any of these. Like the resources are
Yeah.
heavy for mobile. So when you have an iPhone 5C, or I don't even know if you could still buy those, but when you have an older
Yeah,
device,
iPhone 6, iPhone 7, stuff like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
they just don't work as well. So then you don't play these games. You play Candy Crush or you play a quiz game. And
Yeah. And don't get me started on Candy Crush, man. Like, oh, good Lord. But no, it's just you're 100% right. And here's the thing, though. SMC did something that no other company that I have personally seen has done, and they have tried to capitalize on being in the Western world a forefather figure of mobile gaming.
yeah.
Because a lot of the mobile gaming is coming out are straight from China and Asia. I'm sorry, but that is the truth of it. Now you have these games, Fortnite, PUBG, that are finally breaking out into the mobile realm. SMC has already been there.
But those are also games that were on the PC
Oh
first,
yeah,
right? So there's, I think a friend of mine mentioned like there's like 500 or 1,000 games released in the App Store daily. So
oh yeah,
how are you even like if you're, I don't know, mobile MOBA 2, you're not even gonna like make a dent. You're not even there.
yeah. And until you actually pick up the game and experience it for yourself, screenshots and stuff can only do so much. Because as we know, if you go to a mobile game, yeah, the screenshots are going to be awesome. The game will look like crap.
Yeah.
For that, it's also, like you said, it's a very generational thing. We're still having these older generations that look at gaming from when they were growing up and they were playing with sticks and stones and they were out in the woods and stuff like that, didn't have to come back. Well, for me being born in the 90s, being born in 94, I had the very awesome experience of having both growing up where I could go out and play, wouldn't have to be back, spend time with friends outside of the real world. And then still growing up, seeing gaming evolve to the point where it is, and knowing the evolution and the growth come from it. Then these older generational that did not grow up with it, that was only seeing it through their adult years and not knowing where it's coming through, because working from home, that is one of the hugest things, because I work from home at home as kind of tech support for a lot of the phones you use daily. And one of the most common things I hear is, I can't believe how far technology has come. You could probably
Right,
imagine from that voice of the exact age group I'm hearing from. Let that simmer. But they're not wrong by any means. Technology has come through a long way. And just 20 years ago, I can't imagine what it's going to look like 20 years from now.
Right, or even
That's a scary thought.
even 10 years. Yeah, so mobile gaming, we might not even like it may happen so fast that it's gone before it even like blows up the way it should. It may blow up and then disappear as fast as it was here, just the way technology is
Yeah.
going. But yeah, back to the original, like people leaving, like that's a good point. Like maybe the older generation of players and people that are in it, because there's a great post by Mexi. He isn't one of these 15, 16-year-old kids. He's been playing the game since it was released in NA here. And he had a good point in his paragraph here where he kind of responded to Automatic's post where he said when he started playing, there was only 10 heroes. There was no skins. It was a super small community. There was no in-game chat. There was no rank. There was no esports. You just played the game, and if you wanted to know more about it, you had to like search and find out like, oh my gosh, there's somebody else that knows about this game. And when you found it, you like got addicted, and then you found the devs were there and SMC was all there talking and trying to like just get the word out there because they were growing and they were tiny. So you felt like you were a part of something very important at that moment when it was first released, and now those players are feeling like they're not part of it anymore, and maybe they came into 3v3 and it was only 3v3, and now it's 5v5, and they're like, I didn't ask for this when I joined, so now I don't feel like I'm part of this game. Like, I was part of 3v3, I'm not part of 5v5. And so you're seeing that group kind of be like, okay, it was fun, I'll let someone else kind of take over.
Definitely to touch on that. I mean, Mexi's not wrong by any means. And of course, he wouldn't put his voice out there if he did not feel comfortable with him being right on this. And for the most part, he's not wrong by any stretch of the imagination. Especially with his word as he's with gangsters. I mean, he would not put his word out there lightly because he's still representing gangsters. But no, he's exactly correct when it's ranked ruined, pretty much talents ruined brawl, ranked ruined blitz, blueprints ruined grinding. He's spot on with it. He's not wrong. Just it feels like the SEMC itself, with their business tactics, taking the step back from community in order to build up business and thinking they can come back into community, which in fact, once you take a step back from the community, it's very hard to gain that trust back.
For sure.
And I know that for sure. Having to go to people and apologize because that's not a nice thing to do here. Tdawg, don't do that. But the wag of the finger, but it's very well when you're trying to take a step back from the community, you're hurting the people that put your trust in you, which is kind of a whole full circle way of going back right here, of kind of the lesson that I learned, that once you take a step back from the community, it's very hard to gain that trust back. And with them trying to build up business and trying to make Vainglory almost a kind of a household name in their own way and trying to become like the next esport, they're almost killing a game, killing their own game in a way.
And it's not only the players, some of these older players getting frustrated and leaving or deciding like it's time to move on. We're also seeing people, the devs that have been in the game for a long time, leaving,
my heart,
getting fired, really not totally sure on the grounds that all of these people left on. All the tweets seemed very positive that they let out, but Playoff Beard, Vain Shame, God's Eye, and Evil Finn left, what was it, probably like 6 months ago now, but she left for different reasons to move back to Finland. So hers was a little outside of this recent round of people leaving.
But it's still very well hits the mark of these main OG people that made what the game is today.
I think anyone who was playing from the beginning of the North American release or very early on, Playoff Beard was there. He played like all the time. He was in game playing every night, and you could see him playing, linking up with people, often with the pro players so he could pad his skill tier, but he was there playing.
Ouch, on full blast there. But good Lord. I mean, I met these people personally, and when I think they're no longer going to be part of the community, like there's a tightness in my chest because I'm sorry, whoever does replace them, they have big shoes to fill because they're still going to be in the shadow of, okay, are you still going to do as good as Playoff Beard? Are you still going to do as good as Vain Shame? Because these, like Vain Shame and God's Eye, they were part of the community that were brought on to SEMC.
Right.
Playoff Beard, just, especially with his wealth of knowledge in the entertainment industry, and his background experience, and now he, for himself, leaving. It's just, I'm scared, to be completely honest, for very good reason of these OG people.
Yeah, Vain Shame built up the design and overall aesthetic of the esports scene. It could possibly be that because it's going to the ESL out there in Vegas, they were just like, oh, they're going to handle everything. And his role basically got outsourced to really. So maybe it was just filled and he wasn't needed as part of the content or design team at SCMC as much because he was very much on the esports side. Like I don't know all the reasons for people are leaving. There's lots of guesses. People are making speculation. So it's hard for me to say other than just like I'm really sad to see these people go.
Yeah, it does leave a big gaping hole within the SCMC itself, because now you have to realize Playoff Beard's position was absolutely huge. He was one of the main people trying to hold these productions and still go through, as well as Vain Shame on the running the broadcast end of it. Someone's going to have to pick up that slack. And with SCMC now taking on more responsibility for its employees, with people either fire, leave on their own terms, doesn't matter what, they're still gone.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that SCMC can try to make up that loss, because if they don't, I honestly don't know what they're going to do.
Yeah, hopefully this is it. I have a bad feeling it may not be it because they may just be trying to downsize. They grew very quickly to kind of meet the demand, I think, of 5v5 and what they had to accomplish. And now that it's here, they might be just contracting back down to focus. And
and with 5v5 not doing as well as they hoped, I believe it.
Yeah, so we'll have to see. But I don't want to end this episode on all like downer players leaving.
It's leaving.
The last bit of news is that Broken Myth, a site that is very much part of the Vainglory community, is searching for analysts. They want to do more pro builds and more in-depth articles. I think they see that people are hungry for that kind of stuff. There's not enough people doing it. There's not enough people talking about it. X-Scoundrel does some videos about it. Some of the pros like Flash break down tier lists and talk about changes. But for the most part, they are the only Vainglory site there is. So they need help. And
they're the monopoly of the Vainglory websites for sure. And honestly, I've talked with Sean before. Absolutely an amazing person. And all dedicated for sure to that website. That is his baby, and he has done absolutely fantastic. And just absolutely keeping on it. And if you're looking for a place or at least to build connections within the community, that would be one way to get your foot in the door.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with 5v5, there's lots of theories and thoughts. T-Tigers is writing articles on Medium, but that's about it. So you could be you could get your foot in the door, especially in the esports. If you write for Broken Myth, you might get picked up by one of these teams. Who knows what teams are going to be here in the franchise scene, if there is a franchise scene. But you might get picked up because you're an analyst writing for Broken Myth. That may spark some interest, and you might get on TSM or Gangstars and whoever else is around.
At this point, you never know, especially with 5v5 being 5-player teams now. They're going to be looking to expand their rosters and trying to become better than any other team right now.
Yeah, sure. Well, all right. I think we should end it there. This was a great episode, and it's awesome to hear and see that you're coming back, Tdawg. I can't wait to see your streams, and hopefully the podcast pops up as well. And good to hear that you're doing all right.
Thank you. And I definitely do appreciate it. Guys, if you do want to find myself, Instagram as well as Twitter at Tdog or Clysis. I'm sure Brad's going to be taking care of that. And please make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to everything this man asks, because this, without Brad, we would not have Shatter The Vain and not be listening to this awesome podcast, and especially for an outlet to speak on.
Yeah, I'll include all those links in the show notes and the stuff we talked about. Yeah, Shatter the Vain's on Twitter at Shatter the Vain, Shatter the Vain website. Everything gets posted there. Links to iTunes, Stitcher, the YouTube version as well. And yeah, getting close to episode 200. So episode 199 next week. We'll have to see what happens. Hopefully, some good news. It's good news. Tdawg is coming back, but hopefully we have some stuff on 3.2 and maybe some of these bugs getting fixed and things like that. I'm sure all the players would be happy to hear.
Very much so, yeah.
Cool. Well, that'll do it, and take care.
Let's get this over with.